All right, guys, super excited to bring you in on episode number 100 of the Muay Thai Guys podcast. Sean Fagan of Muay Thai Guy and Paul Reaper Banasiak of Muay Thai Athlete. We're over here in Koh Phangan, Thailand, and Surat Thani, and where it all started. It was the first time that Sean and I did a podcast together. We did a live podcast on the beach here when I was running an old blog of mine before converting it to Muay Thai Athlete. So we're kind of coming full circle here, and I know we had a delay on episode number 100, but everything is with reason. There are many things that have been happening, a lot of travels that have been happening. Sean has been planning a wedding, getting his dog over here, moving to Thailand. And once he moved, I was the one on the move. I had my camp with Glory when I fought for Glory LA. And since that fight, definitely a lot of events have taken place, a lot of changes. And, sometimes it's the when you get the most resistances, that's when things push you to do things that are more outlandish, which is like moving back to Thailand when I thought I probably never would do such a thing again. And I bought my one-way ticket. So we're back here, back where it all started. I made my rounds through Chiang Mai into Bangkok, making our way down to Hua Hin, training at Sichapo Gym, and now making it down to Diamond for one of our camps. And we're already 3 weeks into the camp, moving on to our fourth week. And we've had people coming from all over the world. And Sean and I have been just training together. Sean is getting ready for a fight this upcoming Tuesday. So in just 2 days, we have a villa that we rented. So I'm sure we'll be putting out some footage from there. But in the meantime, what's been up since April, episode number 100?
Since April, it feels like so long ago. April, I finished my first camp here at Diamond Muay Thai. I had my first fight back for a while. And since then, I was in, I think I went to Costa Rica at some point, and then I went to Florida, and then Norway and Ireland, and then back here in Thailand. So I've been doing a fair amount of traveling as well. And now that we're settled in, I mean, we've been settled in, but traveling really wipes you out. And once we got back here, Liz and I, we were able to get right into a good flow of life with our morning routines and meditation and training and that kind of stuff. And the group, having the group here is always really motivating, and it helps keep me a little bit more accountable. Although I do a pretty good job of keeping myself accountable, but knowing that everyone else is here to train really hard, have a good time, it forces me to do both of that, train hard and have a good time. So yeah, it's been really good, man. Looking forward to my fight, hoping for a good matchup, and excited about everything that we have going on. And what about you, bro?
Yeah, well, the last thing that we went over is when I had my fight in LA on Glory, and I lost a decision. I honestly think it's the first fight where I can honestly say I got beat on points. I don't think I've ever really been beat in a fight on points all on every round like that. So it was definitely an experience where I needed to make some big changes. And there are things that I've been delaying for a long time that I knew I had to change. And I just haven't had something to force me to do it. Sometimes you need to do something, whether it's like change your diet or whatever it may be. And then it takes that it was like a mini stroke, just like a little sign where it's something that's really alarming, but it doesn't kill you. So it was kind of like that. It was something that just made me realize, because watching the fight back, I can see that my technique is really strong, that everything's really tight, and everything looks, with the way it should, as a experienced professional, not even one that only has a handful. But my sharpness, my timing, and everything has actually diminished. So although my technique and everything has gotten better, I feel like my sharpness, my tactical skill, and everything that I do in the ring, my performance has actually dwindled down while I've been spending my time in the States. I started to invest everything that I had, everything that I was making in my fights, every single paycheck, every sponsor that helped me out into my camps. And I was coming out even or even in the red after fight camps. So I thought that staying in the States versus flying all around every couple of months and doing training camps elsewhere would have helped me. And I think it did on a technical level. I just didn't have the training partners and the environment to really stimulate me to be the best version of myself. And I was, just studying footage, just trying to find correlations of like, when am I the sharpest, when is my mind the strongest? And, the answer was to come back to Thailand. Another thing that I delayed was the surgery on my nose. You were there when I broke it, when I fractured it. It was my pro debut about 2 years ago. And when you're thrown opportunities and you get to tell yourself, okay, do I take this opportunity and then I might never get the call back, or but I get my nose fixed, I get the surgery, or do I just kind of tough it out? I take the opportunity and it's all kind of a win-win, just to prove myself, because whatever the performance is, like I knew I had these injuries, these things setting me back and limiting me. And now I'm kind of taking it all at once. So I healed a number of my injuries. I had facial reconstruction done. We're about like 2 months into recovery now. And I mean, you even said yourself when I was hitting pads that you can just see the difference in my face, which is, sometimes you just have to be realistic and honest with yourself. I was just lying to myself for a long time, saying that, it's good enough, and maybe it was good enough to face the lower tier professionals or the guys in the middle, but being on, the biggest stages in the world, I'm fighting some of the best guys in the world, and you can't let any of these things really get in the way. Like you have to be as close to 100% as possible. So, a little time off, I think, is going to go a long way in my upcoming fight now.
Yeah, I think, like I was saying before we even started recording the real podcast version, having some time, like quote unquote off and just away from things and being able to rest, recover, reflect is always a good thing, because it kind of lets things settle in a little bit more. And I think with your recovery with your nose and your facial reconstruction, it's really giving you a lot more time to do that reflection, to do a little bit more traveling, to do a little bit more of just like soul searching in a way where you're able to really just narrow down what it is that you need to do in order to get to the level that you want to get to. And like you mentioned, you can tell in your fights, in your recent fights, how you're breathing with your mouth open, because your nose was obstructing your breathing. And now with the pad work and everything, you just seem a lot more composed. And it's tough, man, because like when I was training for this fight, it's hard to know whether you actually need a day off or two, or if you're just being a bitch and you need to suck it up. And it's a hard balance to find, because in the fight game, you're always trying to push through the pain and discomfort. But sometimes you have to know when to take that step back and to reassess things and really consider, is this worth it? Is this the right move?
Yeah, 100%. I was just listening to the podcast, and I would suggest it to anyone that's listening to this right now is to shoot over and download the episode of the MMA, the Rogan MMA Experience, where his on there was Style Bender, because he talks about how like you never really stay in that middle spot, that balance spot, too long. And I found that in my career as well, is like trying to find it by hitting the extremes. I would, hit both extremes to get a good idea on where the middle is. And I think it gave me a better idea of where the middle may be and the balance may be, but you never stay there too long. You're constantly testing both sides, and you're kind of, swaying from left to right. And you're never going to have that perfect balance, especially in a sport that takes a lot that's not balanced, like it's an extreme sport. So you're going to sway from one end to the other. And I'm constantly trying to find like, what's better? What's a better motivation? What's better motivation for me? Is it anger? Is it having fun? Is it frustration with myself? Is it frustration with the sport that's going to drive me? Is it people doubting me? Like I started to try to search for that, because I noticed that as soon as people started saying, hey, you're you know, you've won this many fights in a row, and I was on that 17 fight win streak, and just getting on the bigger promotions, and everything was kind of kicking off at the same time. There was really no negative comments or feedback that I was getting. And I feel like that's when I got too comfortable, even though I try to do things to stop that from happening. Like I would just like book tickets before the fight was even over. When I fought for the Lion Fight title, I booked a flight to Thailand to Namsak Noise before the fight even happened, because I knew no matter what happened in that fight, I needed to keep myself kind of stimulated. So, what are your upcoming goals? You're fighting on Tuesday, so that's the next fight. Then you're planning on fighting again. Well, we have more people coming in August. We appreciate everyone signing up, especially doing the yellow thing and signing up last minute for August. I mean, that's the first time I flew to Thailand was on 2 weeks notice. So there's nothing more exciting than that. But Sean's looking to fight again in the next few weeks. And then what is it after that?
Well, I set a goal for myself to have 10 fights by the end of the year. The first stint here, once we moved here in February, March, and April, I was hoping to fight 3 times, but I ended up only fighting once due to various reasons, one of them being the shingles. Like, who the fuck saw that coming? So that kind of set me back a little bit in regards to reaching my 10 fight goal, but I'm hoping to pick up the pace and get 3 fights in this stint while we're here in July and August. Then September, I'll be doing some traveling, going to Greece, doing the Greece retreat, and then coming back here in October, November, and December, and trying to get another 3 or 4 fights depending on how things go. So hopefully I'll still be able to reach 10 goals, the 10 fight as my goal, but it'll most likely be 7 or 8. But either way, I set my goals high, so this way, even if I've come short, I still am pretty satisfied with where I am. And then in the meanwhile, while I'm doing all this, I'm doing all these other projects on the side. I found being here in Thailand helps me really keep a good balance and between my work life, like my online work, and my training. And I've really become like not content, but I've become much more aware of what I need to do in order to find the right balance between my training and my work and my life. That being said, one thing that I still struggle with is really focusing on my relationship with Liz as much as I focus on my training and my fight. And it drives me crazy because it's like a constant cycle that I go through where I just have tunnel vision when it comes to everything else. And then I neglect important relationships in my life because I'm so focused on other things. And so I'm still working on that end, but I feel like I've gradually gotten better. And I'm hoping that this wedding helps just boost things up a little bit. We'll be doing our honeymoon in Europe as well. So either way, I'm very happy with Liz has been enjoying life here as well, which has made it much easier for me to enjoy life because she's teaching yoga, she's doing Muay Thai, she's living healthy. We're working on a project together as well. So everything's going really well, man. It's hard to complain when you're living the vision that you set for yourself like years back. But now, since I'm living that vision, I have new visions of what I want to accomplish in a few years. And so that keeps me hungry to continually evolve and improve and get into the grind day by day and constantly strive for more. So yeah, man, I'm pumped. It's crazy that we're full circle, episode 100. This is where me and you first met. And now we're here again doing what we love to do and spreading the word of Muay Thai, bro.
Man, it's lovely. And seeing you and Liz, like I was going to say, well, I almost interrupted you midway, is that you can see it, that you're placing more of your energy and more of your time, just your focus on the relationship as well. And I think that kind of smooths things out just along the way as well, because if you're training in your mind, I mean, a lot of fighters face this. I think almost all fighters face this, is that you're thinking about your relationship or your family back home, while you're in the gym and you're feeling kind of resentment towards yourself. And then it may be the other way around where you're back home and you're like, okay, I'm doing what I'm supposed to do with my family, with my relationship, but now my career is suffering. So, I may not be as happy as I should myself, like intrinsically. So it's a weird balance, but just like that podcast that we had with Silky Smooth, with Eddie Abasolo, he just talked about that as like, after however many years that has been doing this, has finally figured out how to just be 100% there when at home, so they feel it, and then 100% there at the gym, when it's needed. And I mean, I'm figuring out that balance as well. Like, obviously, I've been avoiding relationships for a number of years now, for that reason, to just make things rather straightforward, where it doesn't even cross my mind. But now that I'm actually in a relationship for the first time in a couple of years now, it's crossing my mind. But I feel like the 2 years off, or however long it's been since I've actually been invested in someone, have really helped me establish what I need, like what I was looking for in a person, so that I find the right person versus just, settling on something comfortable. And I think that just kind of jump starts in a way, because things were aligned from the beginning. And now I'm just following through with the things that I've been working on myself. So I feel like I'm in a good place, so then I can be in a good place for, my significant other. I'm really excited for that as well. So, yeah, recently I put up a status last night, kind of transitioning about Glory. So there are two things with Glory that have been going on. People were talking about the pay, and I've gotten a number of messages about like the pay structure that came out. There was some paper stating everyone's pay, and it's a weird thing, because like, whether you want to talk about it or not, the only thing I can really say is that that's not the entire pay. We're paid for media. So however they frame it, that number it has nothing to do with the real pay. So what people were looking at is not the real pay. And I've, like, number one, Glory has been treating me super, super well. Out of any striking organization, I think they're the most well-run machine, meaning, everything is done for you. I had one of their correspondents like booking my ticket. She even checked in for the flight for me, just made sure that my meals were like, lactose free and everything was all set. And the bag was checked in for me and everything like that. And then you arrive at the hotel and you're handed your welcome packet and everything is streamlined. Like, okay, this time you're here, this time you're here, just so you're not wasting time doing anything else. And they did filming for me when I was at Ruka Center at RVCA. And yeah, I have zero complaints with how they have treated me as a fighter, and the pay and things like that. I think it has been good. Yeah, no complaints at all. I did make a post last night about the scoring, but that really doesn't have as much to do with the promotion as it does with the athletic commissions. And the New York State Athletic Commission is just kind of known for this. That this is nothing that hasn't been said before. I think the MMA crowd is just as upset with them as, kickboxing and other combat sports, because it just seems like, I don't know what it is. Do you need people in a booth watching this, like a video at home, so the crowd isn't swaying you? You have this like ooh factor, but just watching the fights, it just seems like whatever they're scoring is really subjective versus objective, and that's a huge problem. Is like pushing forward, aggression, aggressive. Like, none of these are objective terms. Like, someone is actually hitting someone else and how hard they're doing it. Like how physically apparent it is. It's really based on really subjective stuff that people are like wooed by. Like, someone does a spinning kick and then like hits the glove and it's like, oh shit, that looked fucking cool. And then they forget the last 2.5 minutes of the round. It's kind of puzzling. I thought a lot of the decisions that happened were swayed one way or the other. It seems like the commentators didn't really know. The guys that they were picking were not the ones winning. So it just seemed rather confusing to the crowd.
Yeah, I mean, since Glory has come to be and the whole kickboxing rule set has come to, I don't know, just light in regards to like what people expect. People expect aggression, a lot of punches and bunches, a lot of action, spinning techniques, and that kind of stuff. And I get where they're going with that scoring because they want to entice action. They want to entice excitement and knockouts and all that kind of stuff. But at the same time, there's a fine line between like aggression that is actually doing something and aggression that is just forward moving for the sake of forward moving. And it's a hard balance. And like you said, like when Joseph Altolini, a former Glory world champion, is not able to score the fights the same as the judges, there's a disconnect of some sort where the fighters are just not on the same page as the judges, or the judges are not on the same page as the commission. Whatever it may be, it's just it needs to be communicated a little bit better. We need to have some type of specific system or some type of outline that's a little bit more thorough than what you see on TV in regards to like spinning attack score high and aggression the score is high. Like, what does that mean though? Like, how does that actually score? With Muay Thai, it's a lot more obvious what scores and what doesn't, because it's just really thoroughly written out and passed on to the fighters, so the fighters actually know what the judges are looking for and whatnot. Where in kickboxing, I think it's still, Glory specifically, I think it's a little bit still in muddy waters and everything's just kind of hazy in a sense. But in the end, as a fighter, you just got to go in there and fight your fight and just do what you can, because if you're always trying to change your fighting style based off the promotion you're fighting for, it might not always be good. I mean, obviously you have to adjust accordingly, but at the same time, you still have to fight true to yourself as well, which is a hard balance to find.
Yeah. And I think we can skip over the whole, you should just not leave it in the hands of the judges, because that's
obvious.
More and more people are finally speaking. People are speaking out about this. Is that this is one of the dumbest things that you can ever say. Like, I don't want to stand there for 3 fucking rounds and bang out with this guy. I don't want to stand there for 5 rounds and bang out with this guy. You have 2 professional athletes at the peak of the sport fighting. You know how hard it is to knock out a professional athlete at the peak of the sport? It's really hard. I don't know. Like, I don't know if you've been there or not, but like, it's not the easiest thing to do all the time, especially when it's easier to do when you put yourself at risk. And then, you're at risk. And, Justin was talking about this. You have to be really comfortable with yourself, because that's when you're most vulnerable. You're in front of a crowd. You're at Madison Square Garden, or, you're on UFC Fight Pass, and the whole world is watching you. And there's a huge chance that you're going to get knocked out, or the other guy is going to get knocked out. Someone goes down at the end of the night, or someone loses and wins at the end of the night. So have the people may feel embarrassed at the end of the night, and have the people have the greatest day that they've ever had. And you have to be comfortable with both, because there is an option of both happening. So it's just to say it and leave it like that. I feel like you just haven't been there at that level yet. If that's the way you talk,
You're ignorant. You're just ignorant.
You're just ignorant. Yeah. Yeah. So that's covering Glory, everything that's been kind of happening. My next fight is going to be coming up in the upcoming events for Glory. We're just the matchup is all set. Everything looks like is agreed upon. The only thing is just figuring out the quirks in the contract, because it might be a lengthier contract. So we're just kind of figuring out the quirks there. But everything is looking really good, because I'm in a good place, training 5-6 hours a day. My weight is looking amazing. This is probably like the lowest I walk, while at the same time keeping a good amount of muscle mass and size on. So like, that's exactly where you want to be as an athlete, and especially someone that we just moved down a weight class. which I'm really glad because after watching the New York, I see guys that used to be at like 230 fighting the 187 division, and they still look like they're 230. And the IFMA, the recent IFMA champion, the gold medalist that was actually fighting at like 20 something, 209, was just fighting. So yeah, we have another camp coming up. It looks like we may be doing it in February. Don't quote us 100%, but we want to know from you guys if if you've been watching some of the videos. We've been having private group lessons, which that's the only thing I ever really like. I don't worry about anything coming to Thailand, flying, training, fights. The main thing I worry about is people being happy and feeling like, they had the best experience possible. So that's all I'm thinking about while I'm here, and just to see everyone having a great experience and talking about how game changing it is to get that one-on-one attention, because that's what I seek. So I'm hoping that we can provide something that we're looking for ourselves, which is just to have the perfect blend of being able to sleep, right by the beach, hear the waves, jump in the pool in the morning, meditate, go to training, relax again. But while we're in training, to get the most out of it as possible. And, it's almost one-to-one training the entire session, 4 or 5 hours a day, every single day. There's nothing that can really replace that. So we want to know from you guys, February, August, what are your best available months? And Sean is going to be having his solo camp once again here at Diamond in April, and a number of other retreats in Costa Rica and other places. So that's rather exciting. What do you have coming up? I don't know if I'm with you guys or Sean's here, always popping back in.
I don't know what just fucking happened, but I'm back.
Gregory is right.
Well, no, I have a lot of events planned for
fan base.
2019. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I see you now. Yeah.
All right, cool. Yeah, a lot of big things going on later this year and beginning of next year. I'm hosting 2 Muay Thai retreats in January. One's going to be primarily yoga and Muay Thai. So there's going to be there's going to be 2 yoga classes a day plus 2 Muay Thai classes a day. And you'll be able to do whatever you'd like. And then that's January 6th to January 13th. And then January 13th to January 20th, me and my buddy, Frank Lavorsi, who owns Off the Grid BJJ, who I started training with at upstate New York at Black and Blue. We're going to be hosting a BJJ Muay Thai retreat January 13th to 20th. Yeah, January 13th to 20th. And so back-to-back retreats, have a little bit of everything involved in all of them. And then ideally February, Paul and I are doing another Thailand camp. And then April, I'm doing another Thailand camp. And then I think July, probably another Costa Rica. And then potentially September, another Greece. October, a Muay Thai cruise. These are all just potential things for the most part. But the Costa Rica retreats and the training camps are in early 2019 are for sure a thing. So yeah, super excited, man. Like this lifestyle that I'm living is hard to get tired of. I mean, when we're surrounded by people who love Muay Thai and love life and love experiencing like our lifestyle, it's hard not to be appreciative of it. And although there's ups and downs in life, no matter what, I mean,
yeah,
I'm so happy that I made the move out here. And I'm so happy that Liz is happy about the move out here. I'm so happy that my dog Sway is loving life out here, just roaming around the land, doing whatever the fuck she wants. And yeah, life is so simple out here, man. And I realize this every time I go back to New York, even if it's for a week or two, and then I come back to Thailand, I realize how stressful life is back in the US, at least for me. I mean, obviously everyone has a different situation and stuff, but just the way that society is kind of holds you a part of certain social circles and certain norms, just really, just irks me, and it doesn't sit well with me, and I feel like out of line when I'm back in New York for the most part. And although there's positives to it as well, I love my family and my friends back there. I'm not the best version of myself back in New York that I am in Thailand. And when I say home now, home is much more Thailand than it is New York to me, because I feel so much more like myself being out here on a tropical island training Muay Thai than I do back in snow-ridden New York, inside a house watching TV all day. I don't watch any TV out here, man. I don't bullshit really out here. Like my days are filled with like excuse me, productive stuff. I read a lot more out here. I train a lot more. I eat a lot more delicious food. I save more money. I'm on a fucking beach. I meditate every morning. Like just going over this right now and like saying the stuff out loud, it just re-emphasizes the fact that like life is just fucking better out here. And I remember when we first came out here and I met you about 4 or 5 years ago, Liz and I were like, all right, we love it here. We got to figure out a way to make this a reality where we're actually living here. And so 4 years ago today, we were like, all right, we're going to figure this shit out. And it took 4 years to figure it out. But now we're living the dream that we created in our minds. We manifested it. Now we have new dreams. We have bigger goals. But it really just emphasizes the power of belief, setting a vision, and then reverse engineering that vision into smaller goals. So this way you can actually see progress getting to that final goal, and then reassessing it and adjusting the plan as it goes. But it's exciting when you can actually picture something, reverse engineer it, and then see yourself making strides to that end goal that you're so for. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, your vision is a testament. And then I think it's also a testament because in the path that I took, because it's completely different than yours. We were talking about this the other day where, like you set a vision forward and then you just kind of re-engineered it and just had your goals along the way, versus myself, where I never saw myself even as a fighter when I first started training. Then I didn't see myself as a champion until I became a champion, and then I became a national champion, and then things that moved forth like that. But even when I had 20 amateur fights, I still didn't see myself as someone that would end up becoming a professional fighter. And I see guys that, have like 3 fights and are talking about their professional career and becoming the best in the world. Like, just know that sometimes things just work out really well when you're very consistent and you just keep grinding. You just keep grinding and keep moving forward. Obviously, I think what you do is a lot more applicable because you can, you set that goal and it's that much more realistic when you have a vision of it and you know exactly where you're going. And when someone asks you a question, you don't have to question yourself. You just say it out loud because it's that clear to you. Myself, I wasn't that way. I didn't see myself as a professional fighter. What I thought is like, it would be cool to do one and maybe say, like I did a professional fight once back in the day. It wasn't what it is now, and it was, one day I hope to fly to Thailand, and now it's kind of a norm, like if I'm not here for half the year, then something feels off. And like you said, it's being here, you're doing everything that you're aligned with. You're doing all the things that aren't a part of what everyone else expects you to do, which I feel like when I'm back home, I'm just that little thing of doing favors for people while I have a structured schedule. Like I have a schedule from morning to night. And if anything interferes with it, I feel like everything is kind of getting thrown off. When here is just almost impossible for people to ask you favors, and everyone is Sabai on the island, even more so. So yeah, just here doing exactly what fulfills, your vision, what fulfills your heart and everything like that. So it's beautiful to see you fulfill it. I'm really excited to put my vision forth and forward as well. I'm working on it every single day and moving forward. So moving forward, if people want to join your mastermind and everything that's going on, or join our camp, where can they find it?
The best place to go is just go to the Muay Thai Guy website, and there's a bunch of different ways that you can sign up for email reminders and more information about the mastermind group that I'm creating, as well as the upcoming camps. So just go visit muaythaiguy.com and take it from there. But we got so many exciting things going on besides the training camps that we're doing, the fights that we're doing. Paul and I also discussed, I mean, obviously it's been a while since we've done a podcast because of our travel and whatnot. And we're going to continue doing these styles of podcasts where me and Paul are discussing various topics and philosophies or upcoming fights and that kind of stuff. But we've also decided to keep things more consistent. We're also going to be doing solo casts where either it's just going to be Paul or myself discussing various topics that's on our mind that gets asked from the community. And we'll do a little bit shorter versions, probably around like anywhere between 10 and 30-minute episodes, at least once a week, in addition to whatever episodes we come out with when we're interviewing other people or talking to each other. So this way, because the podcast really has been one of the most game-changing things when it comes to our brands as a whole, because we're really able to connect with people on a different type of level. Because like whoever's listening to this right now, you're listening to this right now, right? We're in your ear. We're discussing a variety of things that revolve around Muay Thai and your life and your passion for it. And so it just connects on a different level than it does if you're scrolling through Facebook, you see a couple of Muay Thai posts and you like it. Here, you're in the shit. You're listening to the lifestyle that comes along with Muay Thai, and you're trying to live it as well. And so we want to be able to give you more ideas on how to go about doing it, how to improve your Muay Thai training, how to improve your overall lifestyle through the power of Muay Thai. And so we feel like it's our duty in a way to continue this podcast in a more structured, routine manner. So this way it can really continue to impact people and impact the sport for Muay Thai and continue to grow it. Because I know when I first started with Muay Thai Guy, one of my main purposes of it was to help grow the sport. And these podcasts are one of the biggest factors in growing the sport. I have no doubt about that. So if we can make this more consistent by doing these additional types of solo casts, I think it's going to be game changing, man. Just like how this podcast, when we started, it was game changing. It's going to be next level shit.
Yeah, I was just thinking about what I told you when you brought this idea up, and there's so many times where I thought about a topic because, it's an issue that popped up in the gym, and I handled it within the next like 3 days. And then we would get on the podcast in about a week, and, the emotion behind everything kind of settled already. So you might not be as, like forward thinking with it and as passionate about it. But whenever an issue pops up at the gym and you kind of have like this like emotional recoil to it, now we can hop on the podcast, whether it's live or just recording our thoughts almost like as a journal and just being able to share it with our audience. I think it's going to help them connect a little bit more, because we go through things just like when you were thinking the other day, like what you were talking about, like the balance of like, okay, you're sick, you had an injury, you have to train for the fight, but you also don't want to make it worse. You don't want to make the injury worse. You don't want to make the sickness worse. So then you can't perform on fight night. Like, is it better to stay sharp, or is it better to just completely recover and be fresh in the fight? And just kind of listing those thoughts off, in audio format where you can hear your voice, your emotion behind it versus some short written posts online.
Yeah, I agree. I'm really excited about it too, because like you said, it'll have more emotion attached to it in a way, because it's going to be stuff we're dealing with right away. And if you, the person who's listening to this podcast right now, if you have any suggestions on topics that you want us to cover, to go more in depth in, whether it's a solo cast or when we're doing these interview style podcasts, just let us know and we'll do our best to add it to the queue, cover it. So this way you can implement whatever tips and advice we have. And if we don't feel like we have any good tips or advice, we'll pick the brains of other people who are a little bit more experienced in whatever fields. Maybe it's more nutrition or strength and conditioning, where more people a little bit more expert in it than we are. But we'll be able to share our advice and what we know through our experiences and our self-study. But yeah, just shoot over any ideas or questions that you may have, and we'll do our best to answer it in a future podcast episode. And the best way to do that is through either email. You can go to Paul's Muay Thai Athlete or my Muay Thai Guy website, sign up for emails, and reply to one of our emails. Send us the email, Sean at knockmoynation.com or Paul at muaythaiathlete.com, and we'll do our best to add that to the episodes and hopefully help you along the way in your journey as well.
Beautiful. And we had a couple questions or comments on here that we're going to close off with, because Austin was wondering, he's moving to Thailand with his girlfriend as well. So he was thinking whether it's safe for her, and if he doesn't want anything to happen to her in Thailand. Can you guys touch on this point at the end? Man, I say this as often as I say anything about Thailand, and it's that just because it's foreign doesn't make it any more dangerous. Meaning people are kind of scared of something that is rather foreign to them. And in the States, I mean, I see so many more tragedies, so many more issues, so much more danger than I see in the countries here, that there's so much less hostility in my mind. When traveling as a female, like, may you get taken advantage of when it comes to like little scams or things like that, perhaps. But if you guys are traveling, especially if you guys are traveling together, I don't think that it is of any concern. I didn't have that concern before until like I brought Mia, and she's she's a petite blonde female, and she's gonna have to go to Bangkok on her own to fly back out to Florida. And in my mind, I think this place is more safe than traveling and doing things back home. I think Bangkok and Thailand is a hub spot for backpackers for a reason, because not only is it cheap, I think that there's just so many open routes and the travel is so streamlined. There's so many people doing it at the same time. You're almost never really alone unless you're going into the parts that you want to get in trouble in. It's your choices. So those people that make those choices, they might get into that trouble no matter what country that they are in.
Yeah, essentially just don't go getting wasted in back alleys and parts of the country that you don't know, and you should be fine. It's funny because, like you said, when you're talking about foreign countries and places outside of the US or wherever your home base is, it always just seems scary. But whenever I travel and I tell people I'm from New York in the States, they think that's like the scariest place in the world. And there's always people getting shot or stabbed or robbed or this kind of stuff. And so it's all perception. And I think as long as you have a good head on your shoulders, you do a little bit of research in regards to what to expect, what type of scams are most common and that kind of stuff, you should be fine. As long as you're not just putting yourself in bad situations. I mean, it's all good, dude. Liz has been to Thailand multiple times. She's traveled here by herself. I know plenty of solo female travelers who have been able to travel by themselves as well without any issues. I mean, you'll always hear stories about kidnapping or murders or anything like that. But what that's like one in a couple million, you know what I mean? And those usually happen because of one specific situation or another. So like I said, as long as you have your head on straight, you do your research, and you're just aware of your surroundings, I really don't think you have anything to worry about. And quick shout out to Austin, because he's been listening to our podcast for a while, and he's always posting motivated stuff. And he did not have an easy upbringing. He does not have an easy life situation, but he is making his dream of living in Thailand and training in Thailand a reality. And he's not bullshitting and making excuses like so many people that I know. and just more power to him, man. I wish you all the best of luck, man, and all the success. And hopefully, when you come here to Thailand, we'll cross paths and we'll go out get some pad thai or Penang or some shit, man.
Yeah, especially with you going to Chiang Mai, it is the best way I can describe it is that yeah, it's still a city because I didn't understand why people were saying such positive things about it. You know, I was in Bangkok, I wasn't a huge fan of being in that city. I'm like, okay, it's another city in Thailand. How much different can it be? But it's got so much history. It is much cleaner, and it just seems to be a much more intellectual crowd because of the universities that are located there. There's like a Stanford branch that's there, and a number of really high up Thai universities. So it just seems like the crowd is a lot more intellectual. It seems that the Westerners that are there are more long-term stays, and it's a lot more family friendly. So just the type of environment that comes with that. There's a lot of digital nomads, so people that are kind of progressive. It just seems like a calm, well-run machine that the city is. It's very clean. I've never felt any type of danger. I never felt like I was getting scammed out there. It seems like the prices are set at what they're supposed to be at. There's no type of trickery, and especially if you're going there, I think she's going to feel very safe and at home.
So we'll answer a couple more questions real quick. Gregory alum wants to know with how to deal with losing a fight. You put all this time and effort into training, and then things don't go your way. How do you get the mindset to fight again? I think you have to develop the mindset that there is no such thing as failure unless you decide to give up and stop moving forward. A loss is just like, honestly, a loss is one of the best types of feedback you can get in regards to what you need to change and what you need to do better. So if you're able to take setbacks and triumphs, whether it's successes or failures or whatever you want to call them, they're both not real things. They're both just based on your perspective. So if you can just take the loss or the win or whatever you're trying to deal with as objective as possible and just see what I did right, what I did wrong, how am I going to grow and learn from this, and what am I going to do to change it? That's the best way to go about it, because when it comes down to it, I mean, obviously losing sucks, and obviously losing a fight is a little bit different than losing a soccer game or some shit. But that being said, it's all part. It sounds so corny and cliche, but it's all part of the journey, and like you're going to grow and become better for it. And as long as you're able to take the loss and realize that, this is going to make me stronger. I'm not going to be a bitch. I'm not going to sulk in my misery and all this kind of stuff. I'm just going to live and learn from it and come back a better person because of it. That's going to empower you to train harder, to make adjustments, and to grow. Whereas feeling bad for yourself, feeling like, and another thing too is no one gives a fuck that you lost. The only person who gives a fuck that you lost is you. It's funny because I remember when I lost my pro debut, I thought everybody was like, oh my God, talking about me, talking shit on the internet and this kind of stuff. Meanwhile, no one cares. I lost. Maybe they talked about it that night and then it was old news. And I think that's the truth with like anything. So when it comes down to it, if you lose, man, live and learn. I know it's a lot easier said than done, but that's what it really comes down to. Paul, you there, bro?
Yeah, now I can hear it.
All right, cool.
Hopefully they heard that whole spiel.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, coming from someone that I dropped a couple decisions after going on a really long winning streak. I was on 17 fights, and in a way that makes you sometimes it makes you feel invincible, and sometimes it makes you feel, hey, when I'm supposed to lose at some point. Like that's like I've been on both sides. Like I felt like I just cannot lose, and I've also felt like eventually, the time comes. Like it just matters when. It's a matter of when. And then I would kind of bounce back to like, nah, man, like just can't lose. And I'm someone that hates losing. I really despise it. But at the end of the day, you have more information. I think it doesn't matter whether you when it comes to learning, when it comes to becoming better, that format, it doesn't, or the L, because at the end of the day, you have more information. Like you can lose and you can make excuses, not take anything away from it. And you can also win and take all the information that you gain from that fight and be able to use that, right? And then learn from it. So I feel like I've learned a lot from my wins. I've learned a lot from my losses. And, they're equally beneficial. Obviously, one drives your career more. Another one makes it for a better story. Like when people go through of people going through hardships, coming back and succeeding. I mean, that's the Rocky story, man. Everyone loves that. Whenever someone is going through a hardship, that's what I tell them is like, hey man, like this is part of your story. Now you got shit to write about. Now you got shit to talk about versus, oh, I've always had it good. And then I did more good shit and then I succeeded. And now I'm set. Like no one enjoys that plot with it, where it just goes straight up. And then, yeah, no one can relate to it either. So, I'm on that part of my journey right now. I had super close fights, and then this last one was definitely like a game changer. And I feel like this is a new chapter, a new beginning. This is a new part of the story. Like this is where it dips back up. Everywhere like you go up, it's looking at statistics. It's looking at the economy. It's never like this. Like you buy the lows, right? Like you're not gonna buy it when it's just going skyrocketing high, and then you buy it at the top, and then it's like trying to catch a knife that's falling, right? Like, no, wait for it to drop all the way, then pick it up, then you can reinvest, and then it goes back, and it's gonna go back up. Everything that comes back up when it falls, yeah. So, thank you guys listening for episode number 100. We really appreciate you guys. Try to follow all the links and everything that we mentioned before. If you're listening on the podcast now on iTunes, I hope you enjoyed the last one that we just uploaded with Jason. We got some great feedback on that one. We'd love to hear your feedback on this one as well. And then on the upcoming solo cast that we'll be providing you guys. Is there anything else that you want to leave them with, Sean?
No, man, I think we pretty much touched base on everything that we wanted to cover and review. And so, yeah, I'm excited about the solo cast. Like I said, if you have any questions or topics that you want us to cover during those solo casts, just reach out, let us know. If you've been enjoying this podcast, a 5-star review is always very helpful and appreciated because it helps us grow the podcast, which in turn helps us grow the sport. But yeah, it was good catching back up. It was good seeing everybody on the live Facebook stream. It'll be good hearing the feedback from everybody listening on iTunes and other podcast subscriptions. So thank you all for listening. Much love. And make sure you just keep following along.
You guys have a beautiful day. Muay Thai guys, we're out. Thank you.